The only real God is the one that you believe in. Start looking for the God in others. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, friends.
Welcome into another episode of Spiritual Philosophy Chatter with the Joneses. I'm Danny Jones.
And I am Samantha Jones.
And this is episode 172.
172.
What's our topic today?
This is We Repeat What We Don't Repair.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. Repeating patterns is very common. I'm sure, everybody listening has probably done it at least once. I've done it many times.
1 million.
Yeah, 1 million times. Yeah.
Cool. Well, before we get into it, anything you want to talk about from last week's episode?
Yes. Last week we did triggers. And we received this email this morning, so I haven't even read this to you yet. This is from Desiree. She's a new listener. She says, "Hi, Joneses. I wanted to say before anything else that I love your podcast. I found it on Overcast while listening to another spiritual podcast. I've only listened to a few of your episodes, maybe 10 so far. I must say you two make a wonderful team. I did listen to this last week's episode today because I have a lot of emotional triggers. This episode really captivated me. You hit the mark on so many things you said about triggers, and I love that you two aren't afraid to be yourselves. It's amazing to me how comfortable you both seem talking about your imperfections and even the struggles within your relationship. I find most people don't want to portray themselves as anything but perfect. It's so refreshing to hear your rawness. That's what people need, so bravo to you both. I'm so glad to have found your podcast. I have already told a few co-workers about it, and they plan to listen too. I'm looking forward to listening to the other 160 episodes I have to listen back to. Peace and love to you both, Desiree."
Oh, thank you, Desiree. That's sweet.
Thank you, Desiree.
That's
love
cool.
that. Yeah, for sure. I think that it's important for us to be ourselves and through all of this, because if we're sitting here telling you guys what struggles we've gone through, then that you're human too for the struggles that you've gone through. And if we pretend to have this perfect relationship, we're just pretending. So we have to, nothing's perfect.
No, it's a journey.
Yeah.
This is our journey, and I think for us, we were sort of motivated or moved to record that in some way in this podcast in some way to sort of a testimony to our journey.
Yes.
Like what we're learning as we're going from the minute we kind of woke up to all this.
Yep.
I
was telling you that I would love to go back to listen to the really early episodes of the podcast and see what those are like, because I had zero confidence in myself and it was very different. It's amazing how time has change things. So, in very good ways.
It will.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that, Desiree.
Thank you.
And I wanted to welcome any other Overcast new listeners that we have. Every once in a while I run an ad on Overcast, which is a podcast platform.
Nice.
And we get really a lot of new listeners from there. So we have some new listeners, and so welcome. Even to the ones that didn't hear about us there, welcome. Welcome to you all. We really are happy to have you. And
thank you, friends.
You enjoy. So every week we answer 2 questions. Oh, I have them right here. This week, the first one is from Chris. Chris asked, "What does the other side look like?" And I don't know if we've answered that question before. I went back and forth of did we? I don't know. But the thing is, even if we did, I've had visions recently that have even expanded my views of what it looks like. So when I meditate, and I will see a lot of times my family in my meditations, they walk me through different things. And when I see them, I see kind of like if you've ever seen Stranger Things and Elle has her visions and it's just black, that's what I see. And a few weeks ago, I asked my mom, why is that? Why is it that I don't see anything? And all of a sudden I saw what was going on behind them. And you can have any reality that you want on the other side. It's really what produces in your brain.
Yes.
But I think the point they were trying to get across to me was if they didn't black things out, I would be looking at everything because it's so beautiful. What I saw that moment when that happened was outside. I mean, it seems that everything's outside. There's no real inside. I don't ever see myself like really inside something, but
Well, it doesn't rain here.
yeah, right.
So we don't need walls and roofs.
True, yeah. But it's always very green and colorful. And at this time, I started seeing colors that I didn't see here, which is something that started happening early in my spiritual journey. I think it's happened to you as well, where the more connected I am, the brighter the colors of everything are.
Yeah.
So I can imagine when you're a spirit, just how bright those colors are there.
Yeah.
What I saw was just absolutely beautiful. There were flowers I had never seen before, all kinds of things. And so I realized at that moment why they did that. I'm like, come back. When they turned it off, come back.
Right.
But really, I think that the other side looks like whatever you want it to look like. It's your reality. So this maybe was my reality because it was very Alice in Wonderlandish, which is kind of my thing. So it was like my own reality. Like that's what I would have created.
I kind of wondered, is there like this, because I do believe that it is a lot of your consciousness. So whatever you sort of want it to look like, it will look like. But let's say for a moment I want to rest and I don't want to think about what it looks like.
Right.
Is there an actual backdrop? Like, is there something that is there always?
That's a good question.
Between Life and Death, the book by Dolores Cannon, I believe she specifically gets into this with some of the regressions she does with the hypnotherapy and talking to people as they cross over. I think it's that book, but in one of her books.
Yeah.
And they specifically talk about how maybe at first the change is different, right? From being in the world to being there. So we want a home. We want that house, those four walls. We can make that. We can actually imagine it, and it's there. And you can invite your friends and family, that are there over. But eventually you realize that it's just a game of consciousness. Yeah. It's imagination. So if you decide at a moment, I'm tired of this house, I want to go outside. It's not literally, you don't have to step. It's just there.
There, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But I do believe that. But I have always wondered, is there a general visual place?
Yeah, I know, me too. And I see this place a lot of times when I see animals. It's almost like it's like the Rainbow Bridge, but this time I saw it with way more like flowers and colors and just so much more to it, and it was unbelievable. So I think they're just showing what you can create that we don't have here, because it's a totally different dimension over there. You can create whatever you want. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And something else that I think is not about what it looks like, but things that I've heard from people that have passed. And actually, you said it the other day that you heard it somewhere about music being played.
Well, they discussed that also in, I believe, the same book. They sort of ask, and they said there's like a general music sound. There's music playing.
Right.
And then my friend said that he had an out-of-body experience where he heard
That's
music. Michael, who passed away that you connected to, talked about the colors and said, I wish they would have talked about the colors that you don't see in the world.
Yeah.
That are here.
Yep.
So, but there's a huge difference. So there's got to be, I struggle with that. I'm like, is there this general, thing that you are going to visualize, whether you're imagining it or not?
Yeah. I don't know.
And it sounds like there is. Like,
it does.
It kind of sounds like Alice in Wonderland or Snow White. Like, you're walking through the forest and...
Yeah.
birds are chirping and there's music playing, you know?
But I do wonder if other mediums, if they see different things.
Yeah.
I would be curious to know that, because that's just maybe my reality, because that's what I love. I love to be outside, and I love flowers and the clouds especially, and the ocean. So, of course, those are the things that I'm going to see there in my vision. So I wonder if there's any other mediums listening and you want to tell us, send us a message, because I'd love to know.
I would too.
So anyways, I hope that answers your question to the best of our abilities, Chris.
I ponder it a lot. Thank you. That's a great question.
For sure. And then the other one is from Sash. And Sash posted this last week, and I had to sit on it for a little while because I still don't know how I'm going to answer this question. The question is, what is the best way to connect to Source? And so I said, what do you mean by Source? Do you mean to our loved ones, to spirits, or are you talking about spirit, God, the source, the source? And she said, the source. So I'll be really honest with you. I don't know if I've ever connected to the source itself. I don't know what that feels like. I just know that I connect to something, whether it's to a loved one. I don't know. So I could be connecting to source. How I do that, for the very first thing that came was the meditation. It really was. You have to have a clear mind, because you have to remember that the other side, they vibrate at a much higher rate than we do. So what that means is they're much happier, okay, to put it in layman's terms. They're much happier, and everything's love and joy. And so when we have all of these earthly things here that weigh us down, it's much harder for them to communicate with us. So when we raise our vibration, that helps them to be able to communicate with us, because we come up higher. They don't have to come down so far. And then we can have better communication. When we meditate, that's what we are able to do, is kind of like put that silencer on our own voice so that we can hear whatever it is that they're saying from the other side. Because I have things that come in as pictures, as feelings, as smells. There's so many different ways that my visions and stuff come to me that a lot of the times I'm not exactly sure where they're coming from, who they're coming from, unless I'm specifically know I'm talking to somebody, or, you know, I'm like, hey, mom, or whatever. So that alone might connect you to source. That's where I would start, would be with the meditation. And gosh, do you have anything to add? I'm trying to think.
My honest belief is, because I believe that we are all part of that source, that whatever entity or fragment of it that you're connecting to, it's all relative.
Yes.
It's related. True. So your mother, let's take, for example, Samantha, who is deceased and is now a spirit in heaven, is a part of that source. Yeah. Yeah. So, but then I ponder sometimes too, well, maybe I don't really, that's the whole purpose of this, is I keep coming back and learning and learning and learning, because I'm trying to advance. Right. In heaven or on the other side. I'm trying to get closer to the source. But as far as here and meditating or praying to whatever you're doing to connect to the source, first of all, the belief.
Oh, yes.
That you have to believe that there is an all-knowing, all-loving creator that actually is in control of the universe.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, that's a big thing. It's like giving somebody all your eggs and asking them not to break it, you know? Right. But that's the faith. That's the trust. So that probably has got to be the first thing, I think, is I got to believe that I'm actually connecting to something.
True, yeah.
You know, those moments of overwhelming, like, emotion that aren't necessarily sad. Yeah. I take those as a direct connection to something. Yes. That either it's it or it delivers that message. Right. You know, if I look at it in terms of like a computer, I would go, okay, the creator, God, is the motherboard, and all of us are just little transformers.
Yeah.
that take the information and then feed it to the motherboard.
Yeah.
And we kind of, in that process, shed all the hate and the BS and,
Yeah.
and we give the ultimate information we give is the experience and the love that we got from that, or the knowledge.
Right. Yep.
That's what I believe.
Something else I wanted to add is music can be
Yeah.
a great connector.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever listened to music and gotten the chills or just been overwhelmed with emotion, I truly believe that that is a connection to the other side right there. But I wanted to say that I don't feel like I have ever connected to God or the source. I don't feel like there's ever been a time when something has been stronger than the other things that I feel that would make me to believe that I have. I feel like I have talked to angels, but not to God or the source. So I just wanted to put that out there. And then something else I wanted to say is I know a lot of people get confused about what meditation actually is. So we did a meditation episode, and I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I want to say it's somewhere between 100 and 110. But it is meditation, grounding, and shielding, I believe. And in that episode, we get into it, and we actually do a meditation at the end. Because the most important thing is in understanding meditation is knowing that there's no right way to do it, that you can do whatever works for you. But for most people, laying down in bed, that's not going to work. You're going to fall asleep.
Yeah.
Some people try to meditate for 30 minutes. That's not going to get you anywhere until you know what you're doing. I love to meditate for 30 minutes. If I could do that every day, that would be great. But starting out, no, because I didn't get it. So I would say go back and listen to that episode so that it can help you more in depth with understanding different ways of meditation, because they don't show, like, when you go online and look for meditation, they don't show other ways of meditation so much as just sit cross-legged and those kinds of things. And there's so many different ways that you can meditate. So have a listen to that episode.
Yeah.
So okay. So I hope that answers your question, Sash, as best as we could.
Thank you, Sash.
Yep. And then I do a reading every week. Let me bring this up. This is from Dustin. Dustin says, "Hi, Samantha. This is Tate. I was wondering why she's always so anxious and what more we can do to help her with it. Thank you."
Kitty cat.
She's cute. Okay, so let me get into her head a little bit here. Okay. So I don't know where this started with her, but we all animals, people, we all have our own personalities, right? We have our own triggers, so to speak, like we were talking about last week. Your cat here is very sensitive, very, I want to say high-strung in an anxiety type of way. Some animals are just like that. It may have been trauma from earlier in life, or sometimes even just like birth until they're taken from their mother. A lot of times there could be trauma in there that they don't even remember. If it's a feral cat, they might remember that, but subconsciously, and so they act different. But what I'm picking up here is definitely a level of anxiety. And when I ask what is making you so anxious, besides just that this is normally, you're just a little bit more on the anxious side, I'm seeing a lot of different things. And I'm not sure if these things are fears. They feel like fears. I can't imagine that this has happened, but maybe it has. I feel like she has a fear of falling, like falling out of a window or off a balcony or something like that and hurting herself. That is the very first thing that she showed me. She's afraid of somebody intentionally trying to hurt her. I think she doesn't understand the difference between intentional and unintentional. I feel like there was a moment where maybe somebody accidentally kicked her. And you know what? This can cause way more trauma than we even realize. So if there was a moment where there was some kind of trauma that was caused accidentally, that might be what she's talking about here. I used to be a pet sitter, and I had these two cats that I took care of all the time for years. And one night I walked into the house and it was dark and I couldn't see where I was walking, and I kicked one of the cats while I was walking, and it was an accident and I felt so sorry for it. I watched that cat until I retired from pet sitting, which was probably 2 to 3 years afterwards. And that cat, every single time I came over from that point on, had to be talked to every time to calm her down, to be, I'm not going to hurt you. That was an accident. I'm so sorry. Every single time that I went there. Right. So sometimes they hold on to these things. Yeah. So I'm trying to explain to her that whatever this is that happened, it's not going to happen again. And that sometimes accidents do happen. And so not to take those things personally. I think that's why, like, if I accidentally hurt one of the dogs, I'm like, oh, your baby. You know, I go after them right away. I'm so sorry. Yeah. And I know a lot of us do that.
Yeah. I had to tell Betty that because when we first got her, she was really, timid.
Yeah.
And especially with me. And I just had to explain to her, look, I'm never going to hurt you on purpose. I might accidentally step on your toe or something or bonk you, but I'm never going to hurt you on purpose,
Yeah, because we don't know what she went through.
Yeah, I don't. But every time I would touch her, she'd flinch.
Yeah.
And that's gone away now for the most part. So unless I surprise her or something. But once I kind of talked to her regularly about that, she started to calm down a lot.
She did. Yes, absolutely. So that is something that you can do yourself too. With those cats I took care of, I wasn't there every day. I was there maybe once every few months. So of course it took a lot more for me. But this is, again, the problem with not having the person here to talk to. So I don't know exactly what we're dealing with here, but I would love to hear your feedback. If you know, don't know, we can dig deeper. But I definitely feel like this is some kind of accidental situation that was just misunderstood, possibly from previous trauma or something. So I hope that helps, and a lot of times just talking to these animals will relieve that block and how they're feeling, and so I hope that this helps. So we'll see.
Thanks.
Yay. So thanks, Dustin. All right. And then before we start, shall we give our info?
Do it.
Great. So you can find me, SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. You can book an appointment there. It's very simple. Have a look. And then for us, you can reach us at the show, spiritualjoneses@gmail.com or @spiritualjoneses on social media.
Very good.
And for you?
For my art, djonesartcollection.com for the web, @djonesartcollection for Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Great.
All right, then. Episode 172. We repeat what we don't repair.
Yes, we do. Absolutely. When I was younger, I told myself that I didn't want to be like my mom, and that the things that I saw her do growing up, I wasn't going to repeat those things. I was adamant on it. But do you know that I repeated things that I didn't even realize came from her? Those are a lot of the things that I think we're talking about today, are the things that our parents leave us with, or maybe a bad relationship or something, and we continue to repeat those patterns because it's what we know. It's what feels comfortable to us.
Yeah, or even a trauma, something that happened that you may have found yourself repeating.
Absolutely, absolutely. We repeat patterns in our lives, and a lot of this, it's just common. We all do it. So it's not something to be embarrassed about. It's not something to, like with the triggers, we all have those too. So let's see. These patterns often stem from childhood. Like I was saying, issues like abuse and whatnot, they can definitely make us fall into these patterns of this is normal when it's not. Humans seek comfort in what's familiar. Sometimes this is as simple as watching your favorite movie or TV show over and over. And it's funny because you make fun of me for watching the same shows. Like I used to watch Friends.
I do though too.
I know now you do, but yeah, before you'd be like, "Are you watching Friends again?" Same things, but there is a comfort in that, and they've proven that. Yeah. So TV and shows. But we are talking about today. What we're talking about today is more like unhealthy patterns, like choosing a person to date or marry that's abusive or does similar things to what a parent did, or repeating bad drug behaviors, those types of things.
Right.
These patterns become ingrained in us, these things that we see and that we experience. So in times of stress, they come out subconsciously without us even noticing that we're repeating these patterns. I asked our listeners, and 100% of them said that they noticed that they repeat certain behaviors throughout their life. That there are things that they have done throughout their whole lives. Mm-hmm. Some of the things that I wrote down here that are maybe some ideas of patterns. A woman with an emotionally distant mother that repeats the same patterns with her own children. Why does she do that? Well, I've had to look at this because, like I said, I didn't want to repeat the things that my mother did. Yeah. But like I said, too, there were things I didn't realize that I was repeating. And my mother was emotionally distant. And so this is something that when I read this that I could kind of understand. Because with Marina, I did have to really, like even still sometimes, there were things that my mother was not involved in. And so I have to remind myself, you need to do this. This is what's normal. This is what a good mother does. Right. But when you don't have a parent to teach you those things, how do you know how to do those? Yeah. You don't know. You don't know what's normal and what's not normal. So this emotionally distant mother, all mothers to you might be like that. Yeah. When you're a kid, a lot of times I think you don't think this is abnormal. Yeah. You think, oh, maybe my friends are going through these things too. But we all have our own things that we go through, right? Yeah,
and there's just a lot of things that socially people don't discuss too, you know? Yeah. Like, hey, I think I might be repeating some of the things my parents did to me. Like that doesn't come up in a conversation usually. But,
no, it doesn't.
It's kind of important to, I think, look at.
I think it comes back again to like what we've talked about in the past weeks about accepting who you are and not trying to sugarcoat it. Because if you really think about it, even if you can't talk to other people about it, it is safe to be within yourself, to be honest with yourself. You might put yourself down, but that you're the only person that's going to do that. So it is safe within yourself to be honest and say, okay, maybe this is a place that I'm repeating this pattern. Maybe I need to change this. I work with women almost every day, honestly, that have bad behavior or patterns in relationships that they get from one or both of their parents. A lot of times we think those are daddy issues, but a lot of times those are mommy issues. My first marriage, my husband was a lot like my mother. I didn't marry my father. I didn't know my father. But I married a mild version of my mother in a lot of ways. And I was repeating a pattern, and those things that I saw in him that reminded me of her, even though I was trying to get away from her, it was comforting in a very weird way. It's very strange. But I didn't realize any of this until like I was in my 40s. It's something that I think we do subconsciously. It's and I think you totally understand because you've been in situations where you've seeked out things that weren't so healthy because they just fall into this pattern of what you know.
Yeah, sure. Some like drama, sometimes you just the drama, as much as you hate it, is luring.
It is.
And, at some point, at least it was, because I was so used to it. And then, once you get away from it for a little bit, you realize, that's not good, Yeah. I think for me, it was a lot of the parenting. Like, when it became my turn to have a child, it was like, okay, certain things I just can't do. Yeah. I don't want my kid hunting me down at bars and taverns, by telephone because they know the number. Yeah. Because they call there frequently looking for me. Yeah. I don't want to lay a hand on my kid in third grade and send them flying across the room, piss their pants. No. I don't want to do that stuff. So I had to look at myself when times came as a parent that I'm going to lose it here. Yeah. My patience is wearing thin. And, we used to hear things growing up like you're cruising for a bruising or, go play on the freeway.
Yeah, take a long walk off a short pier. Heard that one all the time.
Which were like warnings to me, of what was coming. Yep. And I didn't heed the warnings and I got punishment. But I don't feel like some of the things that happened were necessarily justified.
Right.
So, but again, that's my own trauma. That's my own perception and my own viewpoint of it all.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I definitely think there were things, and I had to do it different when it came to meeting you and having a relationship and deciding that I wanted to marry you. I knew that this couldn't be like every other relationship that I normally was either attracted to or landed in. This had to be a conscious effort on my own part to try to be better, different,
Yes.
and grow.
Yeah. The relationships, I think, has been where a lot of my lessons have been in repeating patterns. And for me, I don't really remember a lot of my childhood and things that maybe my mother did, but I know that her relationships with her boyfriend and the man that she told me was my father and my stepfather, I know that those were all very unhealthy relationships. And I know that I saw a lot of things. And in my early relationships carried those things on. Things that I felt that my mother did to keep a man around. Things that were manipulative and wrong. But I didn't know that these were manipulative and wrong things because I saw my mother do them. And so I thought, this is what's normal. This is how we do this. But I didn't, same like with you. I didn't want that in a relationship. I really wanted something that was mellow and wasn't going to be like any of those things.
Right.
And it does take time to understand, the damage that has been done to you and why you might repeat the patterns in relationships. And a lot of women stay in relationships that are unhealthy for them because they don't know any better because it's what's normal for them. And they're afraid to break those patterns because they're afraid of what's out there.
Right.
Men
do too.
Yeah.
I know what you're kind of saying too. That
I work with more women than I do men, so probably that's why. Yeah, I say that. Yeah. No, I know men go through their own things too, and honestly, like most of the time when we talk about relationships, I'm on the man side because I can see how, no offense, ladies, crazy women are, and the things that they do just blow my mind a lot of the time. Men don't have to do anything. They can just be sitting around and they'll get scolded for something. And I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I want to be a team with my partner. I don't want to hold things inside and then explode or anything like that. I want to be on the same level. So I do tend to side with the men on this. Anyways. Right. So I asked our listeners what types of patterns they feel that they repeat. And the number one answer was fear. And I think all of this really stems from fear if you think about it. The things that we do that are patterns and the reasons why we're triggered, it all goes back to fear. Being afraid of abandonment or whatever we're afraid of. It all seems to come back down to fear.
Yeah. It really is. I think that's probably one of the biggest issues that we face as humans, but I also think we waste an exuberant amount of time and energy on being afraid of things.
Yes, we do.
And I've heard that from so many readings that you've done and the books I've read is the spirits that have been connected to say nothing. There's nothing to be afraid of because once you realize that even when you die, that you're not dead.
Right.
So
exactly.
they realize there's nothing to fear.
Yeah.
It's all an experience.
It's true. But we're taught to fear.
We don't remember that
right.
here,
Exactly.
It's we're trying somehow doing all this work and opening our minds to some of these things helps you sort of, it's not like you remember, but you're embracing that idea of that, I'm supposed to kind of remember.
Right.
That this is all experience and there's nothing to fear.
Yep.
Because I'm energy, I'll never die.
That's right. Yep.
So do what you want. Take your shots,
Yep. I've talked a lot about how my grandmother was a huge worrier, and she instilled this level of fear in me that I've taken through most of my life, and I really try and fight it as much as I can. but it's hard. And she used to, call me at this time. 7 o'clock was our time. And if I didn't call her, because there wasn't always cell phones. Right. Sometimes, before cell phones, I couldn't always call her at 7 o'clock. And if I didn't call her at 7 o'clock, I was dead. I was dead in a ditch somewhere. Absolutely. And I would call her if 8 o'clock. Oh, Samantha, there you are. Every time. And I loved her for her love and her compassion. Right. But the fear that she instilled in me has done the same thing, that now when we don't hear from Marina, 5 minutes after we're supposed to hear from her, I'm like, she didn't text yet. Where is she? And I'm really trying really hard to break that, because I realize it's not healthy. Yeah. And it's a pattern that I'm repeating, and I have to stop it. Yeah. So these things that we worry about, whatever yours are, take a look at them and look back and see, because a lot of times our parents they give us this dysfunction, and it just sticks with us, and we don't realize that. We don't understand these little things when we're kids, and then we go, oh man, I get it now. I'm doing the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the next thing on this list that the listener said of types of patterns that they repeat were relationships. And we've talked about that one. Drugs and alcohol. I see this a lot too. And this isn't just a pattern like within a person where, you might go through, if you're an alcoholic, go through a time where you're an alcoholic, then you're sober. And then you fall off the wagon or whatever. But a lot of times we can trace this back to the parents, that one or both of the parents were alcoholics, and see that there was a pattern back there that now we're doing. Yeah. My mother she loved pills. She loved all kinds of drugs. But pills seemed to be her favorite, especially towards the end. And I never saw a problem with this, because that's what she did. You know, you have a headache. Oh, let me get you something out of my purse. What is this, Tylenol? No. You never knew what Linda was giving you, but it was not a big deal. And so I kind of carried on that pattern until I broke myself of it. Yeah. And now I really have tried to get away from as many of the non-needed prescription medications that I can, because I don't want to repeat that pattern anymore. It's very unhealthy. And there's so many different types of drugs that this happens with, and I see it with alcoholics all the time. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, that was pretty prominent in my family with a lot of family members. So I saw a lot of things that, I could have gone without seeing or experiencing. But as I got into, experimenting in, high school or junior high school for that matter, alcohol was probably my least favorite thing.
Yeah, me too.
It's like it's amazing to me that it is legal and it's so widely accepted, because it was the one kind of substance that I felt the least myself.
Right?
When I was thoroughly intoxicated,
Yeah, the least amount of control, it seems like, too.
And it just... But during my divorce, I kind of started embracing it, because I just needed something to really, knock it out. Yeah. And realizing that wasn't the answer. I just needed to talk it out, more than I needed to knock it out. But, and realize, I'm just kind of heading down that path that I hated.
Yep.
That, growing up. So I can't even tell you how many times I really drink in a month. Maybe once or every other month. I don't know.
Yeah, only when you have, get a beer. We went out the other night, but that's so unusual.
And I never do. But we were just a brewery, eating at a brewery. Yeah, and I wanted to try it. Yeah. And I liked it.
I can't tell you the last time I had a drink, but I was surrounded by alcoholics. Yeah. And so it really turned me off. But I did the same thing. Yeah. When I was in my divorce time, that it was like, oh, alcohol, maybe this will take some of the pain away, or cover things up, or make it better, or whatever it was. Right. And I think that's the whole point of the drugs and alcohol, isn't it? Mm-hmm. To make us forget for a little while about the things that we're going through. Yeah. But the problem is they only help for a little while, if at all. Right. And so when they wear off, either you have to do more, or you have to face the problem. Yeah. And so if you can keep putting it off, which is another thing on this list, is procrastination. Yeah. You can keep putting it off and keep putting it off, and keep drinking or doing the drugs, or face it. Yep. And that's hard. I learned the procrastination pattern very, very early. I don't know where that came from. I don't know if my mom was a procrastinator. I know my grandparents weren't. But I don't know if that's a trauma response or what that is. It was another one that our listeners ranked very high.
Yeah.
But I was thinking back, I have always been a procrastinator, even with my elementary school work. Like, the science fair's tomorrow, okay, I'm going to start it today, even though I've known about it for 3 months. Always.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if and I have part of that too, and I don't know which one of my parents. I never really looked at that.
Yeah.
But I could see it in myself. I don't know if that's more of a fear of success/failure.
Right.
You know, like I don't want to move because then if I don't move, nothing will change.
Right. Yeah.
But if I do it, there's going to be an outcome.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that outcome is, and it's scary.
It's true.
So I don't know. It's a weird.
That's true. That's a very good point. It's
but things still move, even though I think if I don't make a choice or make a move forward, I'm telling myself things aren't going to change or move, but they do.
Yeah.
What usually happens is some opportunity just then passes me by. You know?
Right. Yep. A couple more things on this list. Obsessive and compulsive behaviors. So, like, there's a lot that goes with this. But I wanted to say something about this for people that have, like, the obsessive behaviors where they have to go back and, like, check the light switch or make sure that the oven's off or any kind of obsession like that. I definitely believe that's a trauma response, and that if we learn to deal with our traumas, we can find the thing in there. But there's a lot of people that believe if I don't do something this number of times or whatever, something bad's going to happen. And so I wanted to say, as an employee of the universe, so to speak, that's not the case. Right. They want me to help people with everything in their lives, with as much as they can. And so if having a psychic say to you that the universe is saying that you don't have to worry about those type of obsessions and compulsions and stuff and superstitions, then there's a reason. So it's really, that's something that I've been able to kind of break myself of. If I don't do this, this is going to happen or whatever, because those were trauma responses. And once you break those and you realize, wow, I don't have to do that in order to have this outcome or to avoid this outcome. It's very freeing. And the universe wants us to be free in our minds of those things. So, okay, what else do I have for you? Well, why don't we, let's see how much time we have. Okay, why don't we talk about how to repair the patterns? Yeah. Because that's really what we're here to talk about. Mm-hmm. One thing that I wanted to talk about that may not be repairing our patterns, but it's repairing our karma maybe, and the possibility for our children's futures, is trying our hardest not to repeat these patterns with our children. Yeah. And if we do, we need to tell them. If they, like, Marina doesn't know that I stress like this about her, so I don't have to go and tell her about that. Right. But if your child sees you repeating this pattern, it is important to say to them, look, I just want you to know that I have this trauma and this has nothing to do with you and I'm working on it, so that they don't carry it along. Because if my grandma would have said that to me or something, maybe it would have helped. Maybe I wouldn't be the way I am today. Yeah. So we need to, it starts with our kids. Yeah,
I've definitely shared age-appropriate information with Marina, you know, like it throughout her life. Yeah. About my own life.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. So the things that I have here for you. Become self-aware of the patterns. So, of course, first identifying the pattern. What is it? What is it that you're repeating? You have to know. You have to be honest with yourself about it. And then reflect on your behavior. You need to understand the part that you play in your patterns. You are responsible for your own actions. Mm-hmm. So if you're repeating a pattern, you may not really even know, I guess, consciously a lot of the times that you're doing it, but you're still responsible for how you react to things. Yep. So you have to take all of that into, be accountable. Mm-hmm. Accountability is very important. And you have to heal the underlying trauma or wounds. So if you have abandonment issues, rejection, shame, whatever it is, you have to work to heal those issues so that you don't repeat them. And how do you do that? Well, when the situation comes up the next time, you have to react differently to it and heal it and not repeat it. And that's very difficult. Yes. I've done nothing but work on those types of things for the past 5 years, and it's hard.
Most of the time we don't want to acknowledge it. We want to just continue our behavior without, a second thought.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing, is you have to give it that second thought. You actually have to give it the first thought.
Yep.
So, well, it probably would be your second thought, because whatever's triggering you to get upset, let's say your child's upsetting you, or your spouse, or your boss, what is it inside of you that, what button has been pushed?
Yes.
Just like take a second to think about it. That right there will slow you down.
Yeah.
To give you a little bit more time before you react, but give you time to ponder what chord is this striking in me, and why do I feel the need to do this particular behavior in response?
Right. Exactly. I was talking to my sister earlier, and she wanted to kind of put her 2 cents in on this topic. And she was like, I think that I understand this. And she said, so every day she gets up and she does the same thing. She takes her kids to school. She has coffee. She goes to work. She comes home from work, whatever, the pattern is, or but she says, the thing is that she doesn't do things for herself. She doesn't take care of herself the way that she should. And so I said, okay, so those things that you're talking about, the things you do every day, that's not really the pattern. That is more of the routine. And we all need routine, really, to some extent. We all need routine. The problem is the lack of self-care and taking care of ourselves. So that was great that she looked into that and she saw that's an issue. I'm not doing these things for myself, and I just continue to repeat this, and then I get upset about it. I get upset about the fact that I don't have time for myself or whatever it is. And so she's just continuing to repeat that. She's like, so I'm going to shake it up and, start taking better care of myself. Yeah. Self-care is really, really, really important. It really is. We need to do an episode on that, because I think we forget about the importance of it. We take care of everybody else around us, but not ourselves, and that doesn't serve us very well at all. Nope. I wanted to read this. So I usually ask in our reading group, in the podcast group, if anybody has any questions or anything that they would like to add for this week's topic. And this was from Paul. He said, non-serving patterns, are they a sign that there is karmic work to do from a previous time? A reminder to do better, or is it a residue of a traumatic time event and coping mechanism to get through? Although some patterns are enjoyable, food and drink, balance can be hard.
Right.
Yeah, and I thought, when he said that, I thought about, oh my gosh, yeah, food is something that is a total pattern that I didn't even think about, like, when I put the questions up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a really bad pattern for me. Like, how many of you, when you're like, Monday, I'm going to start the diet, and then Monday comes and you do really good on Monday. Tuesday, maybe not so good. By Wednesday, you're eating the cake again, and you're like, I'll start again next Monday. And it's just a pattern.
Yep.
And that's one that I stopped doing, but I did it most of my life. I realized if I was going to do something, it has to be a lifestyle change, not a diet, and it doesn't matter what day I started on.
Right.
So that helped me, and the way that I broke that pattern at first is I said, okay, Monday is not going to be the day. I'm not going to start anything new on a Monday. I'm going to start it on a Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So Tuesday became the new Monday. But you know what? It really did help. It helped because there's something about Mondays where it's like, new week, new me. And it never works.
Well, that's the beauty of this world, is that we have free will.
Yes.
So we can do what the hell we want. But Paul brought up a very good point there about the karma. And absolutely, I believe that. And I believe that it's generational karma on top of generational karma on top of generational karma. This goes back so many thousands of years that humans have been shedding bad karma on each other. Mm-hmm. So that's the purpose that we have this conscious, this 2 parts in our mind of the, I should do this and and seek revenge and eat that whole cake myself. And then there's this side that's talking to you that's like, do you really think that that's a good idea?
Yeah.
That's there for us to decide in our free will what's best for the karma situation.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So very well could have been things you did in previous lives. And there could be things you're doing in this life that if you're hearing that or feeling that, listen to it.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad that you brought that up, and I looked it up. Okay, so ancestral karma, we did an episode on that. It's episode 85, and I'll look up the meditation one in a second, too. But I wanted to point this out because this is another way that we get our patterns. That there are things that our ancestors did not heal. They didn't fix, okay? So, for example, my mother died of a morphine overdose. So she gave that drug issue to me now to deal with, because she didn't deal with it in her life. I had to deal with it in mine. So it was literally like she died, and guess who the opioid addiction came to? Yeah. A week later, it came to me. Yeah. And I had to fight it and stop it, and I have. And I don't want that stuff. Even when they offer it to me, I turn it down. Yeah. And I've been tested on this many times. I've had dentists, even when I've asked them for something non-narcotic, that they will give me the opioids, and I won't take them. I've handed the prescription back. And that is breaking the ancestral karma. But you know what? I have to continue to do that for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. Should I go back to opioids, which I'm telling you I won't, right. But for sake of conversation, if I did, it would open it right back up. Right. So that is a whole different level of repeating patterns and bringing the karma aspect into it in that way. And then there is the past life aspect as well. Mm-hmm. What did I do in a past life that now I'm learning in this life? That I'm facing these patterns, and am I repeating them from a past life? What are they? Yeah. And a lot of times we don't know, well, most of the time we don't know what those are from past lives, right. Unless you get past life regression therapy. Right. And highly recommend that for sure. Yeah. That would help. That helps a lot of people I know when they have that, to heal that karma from past lives. Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
So, yeah. So we're a little bit early, but that's all I got for you.
Well, that was cool.
So, yeah. Good episode, I thought. Yeah.
It's, I don't feel like when we're sitting here saying the things we don't fix, we don't repair, or the things we don't change, we don't repair, is a one-shot thing. It's not like, oh, I fixed that. It's all done. Never going to hear about that again.
Yep. Right. Not at all.
This is, for a couple reasons. It's a journey. It's lessons, and it's trauma that's stuck with you. It's in your mind. It's in your consciousness, which is going to go with you when you leave this world. So we have to deal with it.
Yes.
Whether we're going to deal with it here or there, we have to deal with it.
Yes.
Because this is part of us for eternity, man.
Yes, it is.
So until we can quiet our minds and get a grip on this, that determines how many times you have to do certain things, and I, for one, and I've heard you say this too, is like, I'd love to master them all in one.
Yeah.
And float on the other side for eternity. Yep. And say, I'm good.
Yep.
I passed. I'm done.
Yep. I have my little VIP pass.
But that's not it. No. That's not it. And that's not really even what I fully desire. It's the weight and the gravity of the world is hard and heavy sometimes. Mm-hmm. But you have a completely different perspective once you do go to the other side. All of this makes so much sense because you're given a lot more information. Consciously, you're aware of a lot more things than you are right now.
Yeah.
So you have to trust that the work that you put in to help yourself and repair yourself, to whatever degree that is actually going to work. Yeah. Because if you think you're doing all this and you're kicking and screaming the whole way, you're not going to get much out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with
So there really has to be some level of optimism when you're facing this stuff.
Yes.
It's hard. But it's not debilitating to the fact of you can't live your life and you can't have happiness.
No, absolutely.
But happiness is in between. There's happiness and there's sadness. So we've got to learn to embrace all this as part of our experience and not want to lash out in bad ways and create new karma because we're not willing to repair ourselves.
Yes.
Because all you're doing is then laying another layer of this karma across your life.
Yep.
And then when you get to the other side, you realize, I did it again.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Man, okay, when does my flight leave?
Yeah. I tell myself that sometimes when I have one of those moments where I know that I haven't done what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
I go, damn it, I don't want to have to come back here and do it again.
Yeah.
So I try and, do it the right way.
Yeah.
But it's not always easy, and it's not always the first time, and it's all lessons and tests and growth and everything. It all happens the way it's supposed to and for a reason. We have to remember that we're not put here to be comfortable. Yep. I hate to say that, but we're really not. We're put here to do all of these things we talk about.
Yeah. So hold on tight and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
I wanted to give that episode number for the manifestation.
Okay.
So there's two of them, actually. There's 24 and 101. 24 is very early, and we have grown and learned a lot since then. Yeah, so I'm not going to discourage going back and listening to it. I'm just saying that 101, we probably can help a lot more. Yeah. And we do a meditation at the end.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
But this is really an important part of a lot of different things. Even if you don't want to develop abilities or whatnot like that, meditation can help you to just be a calmer, happier person. It trains you to have more control of your mind, and it's a lot easier than people think it is. So I really highly encourage you to go back and listen to that episode.
Yeah. Yep. Please.
So there you have it.
Very good. Well, you want to share your information one more time before we say goodbye?
Yes. My website is SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. And then you can reach us at the show, spiritualjoneses@gmail.com, or on social media, find us at spiritualjoneses. We love your comments, questions, suggestions, all of it.
Yeah, the discussion group.
Oh, we love the discussion group. Yes, you can find that by searching on Facebook, Spiritual Philosophy Chatter with the Joneses discussion group.
Cool.
Yeah, and then you...
One more time for my art, djonesartcollection.com for the web, at djonesartcollection for Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And just a little side bit I want to share. With Samantha's new show coming up, I got the opportunity to make a little music for it.
Yeah.
And I had a very good friend of mine, Sean Davis, come over and play some bass on it. And it's just awesome. So
yeah.
I can't wait.
I can't either.
It's going to be exciting.
To hear it. Yeah. It's so good. It's perfect for the show.
Yes,
for sure.
Cool.
So, yes, thank you, husband.
That was fun. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Of course.
Boss. Well, we hope everybody did get something out of this.
That we do.
And don't be afraid to go out there and help yourself.
Yeah.
We hope everybody has a great week.
And Bessie says bye too.
Oh, Beth. And until next week,
peace and love.